So when I was 12, I broke down on national television. I was a part of 320 child geniuses who were chosen to participate in India's Child Genius, a Star World show. I was excited, I was thrilled, and I was super proud to be a part of this coveted group. Yet, few days before my performance, I started getting anxious. On the final day, when I was asked a question, my mind went blank, my hands started trembling, and I felt like I would pass out. Except I didn't, because I lived one more day to see all the intense humiliation and embarrassment and bullying. I didn't think I could get over it. I pretty much confined myself to my room and my studies. I avoided every chance to give a presentation. In fact, even in groups of people, I would not want to talk. But I had this lingering question. Why me? Why were the other kids so different? Why was I so different? Why didn't they freeze in front of camera? Why did I freeze in front of camera? And to resolve these questions, I studied 30 personality systems and mind and body systems, like Ayurveda, Unani, Suarikpa, MBTI, Enneagram, you name it, and I read all of that, just to try and explain what made me so different from other people. And in this quest, in this obsessive quest, I discovered a few things. I discovered a few patterns across all of these systems. And that's what I want to bring here today, my distilled wisdom, accumulated over the years from all of these systems, presented in the form of 6 rules of healing. I want to do this not just as a person who's overcome their own mental health challenges, but as a mental health startup founder. The first rule that I want to emphasize, healing is personal. What do I mean by that? The first system that I studied was Ayurveda. Ayurveda naturally has types. There's Kapha, there's Vata, there's Pitta. Vata types are excitable, anxious, scatterbrained, all over the place, and are rather lean. Kapha types are earthy, grounded, stable, but also prone to putting on weight. And when I saw these two types, they couldn't seem to be more opposite to each other. And I realized, if people are so different, shouldn't their healing be so different too? And then I look back at all the therapy sessions that I went through and all the things that I saw in the mental health ecosystem. I don't think we are designed to actually represent this kind of diversity. People are pretty much told to meditate, exercise, but yet meditation can be harmful for some people who have severe trauma. High-intensity exercise doesn't work out for everybody. You might have come across friends. There's a type of friend who can actually eat every couple of hours and still lose weight. And then there's a kind of person who fasts and does intermittent fasting, maybe has 2 meals a day, and that helps them lose weight. Both approaches drastically different, yet both seem to work in different cohort of people. That suggests that people need different types of healing to the extent of, if one thing is medicine for somebody, it's poison for somebody else. I also realized in this entire process that when it came to mental health, let's say we look at people with narcissistic traits, for instance. People with narcissistic traits are often told, why don't you love yourself more? But I think the problem is their malignant self-love. Often victims of narcissistic abuse are told, stop being a victim. Don't have a victim mindset. But they are a victim. So on some level, the general advice doesn't work. Self-love doesn't work for everybody. Getting out of the victim mindset doesn't work for everybody. And healing must reflect that. The second rule is healing is unity. What I mean by that is, you will benefit if you integrate the internal opposites. Sounds complicated and jargony, but what I mean to say is, let's say you're more introverted, and you hesitate to put yourself out there like I did. you might benefit from certain traits or certain aspects that extroverts naturally embody. They like people. They genuinely enjoy, they gain energy from social interactions. So can we try and take in the good things from the extroverts and vice versa? Can the extroverts learn to self-reflect and take on the traits of an introvert? Maybe. And if we are able to do that, we'll come to a state of harmony and balance, and that's the idea of healing. Extremes often cause disease. Extreme of anything causes some kind of imbalance and disease in the body. And the idea is to come to a state of balance. And that's why healing is indeed balance, healing is indeed unity. The third thing that I realized in my journey was that sure, I can try and work on myself, I can get to know myself, my personality type. What am I? Am I an introvert or an extrovert? I can even try and gain some of the natural skills that extroverts so effortlessly have. But what's the point if I just don't accept myself? So rule number 3 is, unless you accept yourself, you cannot heal. I think it's a little bit paradoxical. We are told that, hey, if you're trying to change yourself too much, you don't love your current version. And also the opposite. But what if it's not a paradox? What if healing and change can both coexist? In fact, Carl Rogers said that the curious paradox is only when I accept myself can I change. The whole idea is to love your current version, but yet still strive to change. So if you have to move from point A to point B, you must do that for the love of point B and not for the hate of point A. And that's the difference. So try to accept yourself as you are, and deep acceptance almost always brings up some uncomfortable emotions. We think we are not worthy of love. We think we are not worthy of all the good things in life. We think that we have a black and white perspective, that either we are all good or we are all bad. But truth lies somewhere in the middle. And that's why self-acceptance is also a journey that often lasts for an entire lifetime for a lot of people. The rule number 4 for me was healing is connection. Now, I think all of us have heard at some point in life that cut off the toxic people, you know? And as a whole, when we receive these messages across social media, across Instagram, across YouTube, we get this idea that maybe best healing happens in solitude. Now, there is some grain of truth in it. A phase of healing does happen in solitude. But healing is also relational. A majority of healing actually happens when you go back, integrate in community, and then you're triggered. And then you realize that, wait, I didn't heal all of this stuff. I thought I was healed. I thought I was calm. I was meditating every single day. I was exercising. And now suddenly, I find myself being pulled into the same old pattern. So healing is relationship-oriented too. It's community-driven too. It doesn't only have to be solitary. The rule number 5 for me was when I actually went back, after isolating myself, I actually did integrate in the community, in a loving community of my fellow colleagues from IIT Bombay. That's the first time I ever felt accepted. But I also realized in this entire process that I was not able to stay consistent with any of the healing work that I was doing. Sure, I had improved leaps and bounds, but I had to ground it in the 3D. I had to ground it in the body, meaning that healing can't just be in your mind. You can't just accept, you can't just think better thoughts. It's very, very body-oriented, it's very somatic. So any kind of body-based practices like yoga, Feldenkrais, somatic experiencing are traditionally recommended whenever you're in any form of therapy or self-work. And I believe that several new age systems like epigenetics, it talks about how you and I can have bad genes, but you had a loving, supportive environment while growing up, so you will turn out to be healthier than I would. And that, for me, is quite transformational as a way of looking at and dissolving the duality between nature versus nurture. It's both, actually. It is, of course, your biological predisposition. It is your body. but it's also your environment and what happens in the mind. And that's why I feel the paradigm of duality between mind and body must end. Mind and body both are important. Mind and body are intricately connected. And finally, and this is something I'm still trying to integrate now, and I think I'm halfway there, which is to embrace all of your emotions. During healing journey, a lot of stuff comes up. A lot of bad stuff, a lot of past things come up, your trauma comes up again and again. And you have to remind yourself that you're doing this for a benefit eventually. It doesn't feel like that in the moment. Nobody likes feeling negative emotions like and fear, shame, guilt, anger. Yet all of these negative emotions serve a purpose. Anger teaches you that these are your boundaries. Nobody else is allowed to violate this. Shame tells you that this is what society actually approves. You must conform yourself to societal norms. Guilt tells you when you're not in alignment with your own values. Envy tells you what you desire, but are too afraid to chase yourself. So, what if we use these negative emotions as a way to guide us towards a better life? What if we don't demonize them? What if next time a negative emotion comes up, we choose to embrace it, sit with it, and then, of course, let it go? We don't want to cling to negative emotions, but we don't want to run away from them either. And that's why I think rule number 6, I think, is the most foundational principle, because at its core, life is about duality. Life is about contrast. Happiness and sadness go hand in hand. Without sadness, happiness would have no meaning at all. Just like white seems whiter when contrasted with black, our happiness seems more intense if we have gone through a miserable period. And if the purpose of life is to intensify experiences, it is to make us feel experiences, it is to make us go through the entire experience of life. If we turn away from emotions, we are basically turning away from life. And that's why I feel like the purpose of healing is to actually let go of all that we've gone through, to come to a state of whole by integrating the opposites inside of us, by getting rid of duality. And I wish we had all of this knowledge being taken in our mental health ecosystem. I wish we could have a paradigm change in our mental health ecosystem, in the mental health tech that we build in schools, in colleges, in hospitals. And though I only have a few people in front of me right now, but I really invite all of you guys to really explore yourself, understand yourself, and ask yourself this question: what part of me do I want to heal? What part of me do I want to integrate, embrace, understand? And if I'm able to do that, I think this will be a great conversation. Thank you so much.